Hello, everyone. Welcome to 5 o'clock somewhere.
Welcome.
All right.
Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we are thrilled to welcome Martin Cody with Cellar Angels into our nest. He's streaming in live from across the country. Thanks for joining us, Martin. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We're very excited to learn about Cellar Angels and to learn a little bit about you. And essentially what I understand from Cellar Angels, it was created by a group of friends who are passionate about wine and changing the world. So tell us more about that and your idea for Cellar Angels and what inspired you launching that business.
You have essentially everything that formed us. And together we kind of believe, and I certainly believe, that most businesses are farmed from what I refer to as kind of the shun origin, meaning they either are founded by desperation, frustration, or inspiration. So for us, it was really, we were frustrated that nearly every wine store we walked into had the same wines, regardless of where we were in the country. We were frustrated that many of the small wineries that we had grown to discover and fall in love with had no representation whatsoever. And especially the incredibly small wineries of, say, where you are, Napa and Sonoma, no one knew about them. And no one was doing anything about it. So that's where we got frustrated, and that's where we got inspired as well. We're also further frustrated by the archaic three-tier system where there's a huge monopoly going on and the consumer has absolutely no choice in their wine selection, and we said this has got to change. And we started to ask lots of questions. So we asked questions like, well, what if people knew about the thousands of wine producers that don't have any representation in any of their wine stores, but are making exceptional wine? What if they knew these wines could be delivered to their door? What if they could get these wines at a fraction of the cost that they might, say, get in a store or certainly at a restaurant? What if they could support their favorite charity in the process? And from there, it just sort of steamrolled, and we put together this plan and said, okay, there's way too many great wines out there. There's way too many people that we can benefit. Let's see if we can put all this together in one full swoop of a company, and that essentially is how Cellar Angels was born.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I do want to say we forgot to introduce ourselves, so we're just so excited to have Martin in the studio. This is Christine Trice, and
with OMG, I so need a glass of wine, or I'm going to sell my kids.
Yes, check her out and friend her and follow her on Facebook. It's very popular, and she's hilarious, and always have a good time with Christine. And I'm Susan Quinn of ToutSuite Social Club, and I just want to say the way to participate in the show is either to log out and log back in and click join on camera. You'll be sitting right next to Martin, and you'll be on live interactive video and audio with us, pretty much sitting across the table in the social club.
Yeah.
So another way is to, if you're viewing the live stream, tweet us at 5 o'clock. And we will be able to answer your tweets live within the show. So that's, if you see us looking at our phones, that's what we're doing, is looking at your tweets.
And it's 5 o'clock with the number 5.
That's
so
right.
5, IVECLOCK. You can also tweet at OMG Wine, or you can also tweet at Tout Social.
That's right. And finally, I just wanted to thank the Priest Ranch from Summerston Wine Company. Priest Ranch is our house wine of the month for ToutSuite. And this, we are enjoying the 2009 Petite Syrah. So visit them either in their Eastern Napa location. It's absolutely beautiful ranch out there, or at their tasting room in downtown Yountville. So again, Martin, let's carry on and hear more about the charity angle of what you're doing. I mean, that's just really bringing another aspect to it. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm.
That actually stemmed right from the beginning of the first meeting we had, and giving the verb sense is really essential to us, and it's all about what we try to do. And it was in the foundation of the company, it was the first pillar of our company's plan, so to speak. Giving to us is transformative. It actually changes people, and when they watch it, and there's a lot of scientific evidence to back this up, which we thought was pretty cool, because when someone has a random act of kindness, and to us, giving is clandestine, not the celebrities that hold up the cardboard checks that say, look what I gave, okay? That's not what we're interested in.
We have a guest coming in. I can hear him.
Okay.
Can you, they're not quite in yet. Sorry, go ahead, Martin.
No.
We were getting some
So for us, giving, there's a lot of companies out there that say they're cause-based or that donate to charity. Then you do the due diligence and research, and it's less than 1% and that sort of thing. And we said this has got to be authentic because there's a great consumer base out there. And with the speed of social media, with the speed and transparency of technology today, it has to be authentic or people can smell BS a mile away. So those are the sorts of things that we wanted to figure out from the word go. How do we pick our charities? How do we make certain that people have the opportunity to give? And then how do we give back? And we know, all of us are connected, by the way, from giving. And if you take into consideration Christmas time and that story we hear on the news where someone randomly donates a $100,000 check into the red bucket, and we hear it on the news and we go, wow, that's actually pretty cool. And when we see it happen, even an observer of a random act of kindness has their neurotransmitters impacted. So people watching giving and doing charitable work are impacted just as much as the giver and receiver. So we said, let's just bring this to the masses. How big can we make this? How can we get the consumer wines that they've never heard of? How can we help the charity and how can we help the winery? And let's just make this a systemic circle and just see how big it can get. So that's why the charity angle is so important to us.
We have a Twitter question.
Okay.
We can get to it right away. This is from Dan God 1, like
Okay.
that. Hi, Dan God 1. And Dan God 1 says, Martin, what excites you about these small producers?
Oh, it's a great question.
It's a great question. And Dan is a neighbor because he lives in an adjoining state. And he also is a fan of the small producers like we are at Cellar Angels. What excites us is the commitment, compassion, dedication, and drive that they have. They aren't the largest producers, and people need to drill down and study and see how the economies of scale absolutely work so extremely against these folks that for them to even get a bottle of wine into the consumer's hands is a miracle. The small producer is usually family-run, sometimes often multi-generational, but they've been doing this because of their love of the craft, their love of what the ground and Mother Nature can produce. And when you see that love, when you see that inspiration come through in the wine, you can't help but be impacted. It's not mass-produced. There's not some fancy marketing label on the wine on a store shelf with a talker or anything like that. It's like, hey, here's my wine. This is what we produce, just myself and I and two other people, and let me know what you think. And it's all about coming together, and that, I think, to Dan, is why we love the small producer.
Now, how do you find these small producers? You were essentially, I see you as the connection from these small producers to the masses who otherwise would not have the means to find them, just as you've said. But how do you find them? Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your background and your involvement in wine previously before starting Cellar Angels and how you find that connection.
Well, one of the key angels at the company is, in fact, my wife. And we own a wine store in the Chicago area. And so for the last 5 years, the wine store has some very stiff competition in downtown Chicago. But we focus mainly on small producers from around the world. And by us, that definition is anybody produces less than 10,000 cases. So everything to us is a hand sell. And when the economy was hitting the skids in 2009, 10, and 11, we were very worried that a lot of these small producers that make the industry, for us, the romance of the industry and just the magic of the industry, we were fearful that they were going to go away. So we thought, how can we help them, the small producers? Because quite honestly, I don't care what industry it is, and this is my personal opinion. No one remembers the 1,000-room hotel that they stayed in. No one remembers the huge chain restaurant across the city that had 500 dinners that night. They remember the small boutique shop. They remember the small bed and breakfast. They remember that greasy spoon where they had breakfast on the coastline that there's only one of. Those are the memories that we wanted to try to capture with Cellar Angels and bring that full circle to say, you guys, consumers, there's a whole host of these wineries out there. You don't know about them because all they're doing is making exceptional wine and they have terrible websites. So how can we help them leverage technology and get their product, which is magical, in front of the masses? And we started out knowing a few wineries in advance, but now the wineries find us, which is terrific. And, I mean, Christine, you and I've actually pointed you to a few wineries where you've done some work, and it's the small family-run wineries that we really, really gravitate towards. So they're magical, and each one has a story, and that's what we want to help them tell.
Yeah, I love that story. Every bottle of wine, you're drinking history in a bottle. And I love visiting the small wineries and the wineries that you've connected me with because I get to know the people that are behind making that wine, and it makes it more special and you appreciate every sip. You really do. And that enhances the experience. Like you said, it's all about the experience of drinking that wine. And I'm curious too.
Go ahead.
Oh, so what is the actual process? Walk us through the process of either someone finding you or you discover that winery. What is it that you do for them to get them in front of the consumer?
That's a big part of our differentiator because we looked at the marketplace out there and said, oh, sure, there's a bunch of people that are digital, quote unquote, end of bin, placeholders online. We wanted to be more than that. We wanted to help the winery tell their story. So rather than have the consumer read a bunch of tasting notes and things like that, we produce a custom video of each winery, which is unique. No one is doing that. So we go to the winery that selects us. We partner up with them. We say, okay, we're going to be on site these days, and we spend 3 hours filming custom video of them. And we edit that all down to a magical 3.5 minutes, and we give that video to them so that they can use it in their marketing further on because it helps the consumer connect with the winery. They can see the people behind the winery. They actually get to – actually, there's the crowd.
Come on in. Ladies and gentlemen, the live studio audience is in the house. Come on, ladies.
Hi, pull up the chair.
Get a glass of wine.
This is how we roll around here. It's an open revolving door. People are coming and going. You know how it is in Napa.
This is
where there's wine, there's people.
We do call it a social club for a reason.
It is, absolutely.
Very good point.
Yeah.
So how long does it take then once you set out and you shoot the video? How far out, since you are connecting with many more brands, once all the production side is done, how far out do those videos usually hit, before they start to hit?
We're at about an 8 to 10 week lead time right now. I'll be in Napa March 31st through April 3rd filming a group, probably 6 wineries, and they will appear sometime in the May-June timeframe.
Oh, that's great. So when did you officially launch?
We launched November of 2010, and it was a white-knuckled ride of terror. When you have so many moving parts and you have an e-commerce site and you have charity and you have video, it was a bit unnerving. Not a lot of sleep that day.
Oh, I bet. And so I'm curious, too, when you're working with the wineries and the different causes, are there specific causes that you always donate to, or does the winery choose that? And also, is there a baseline of the percentage of proceeds that goes to whatever given charity that you're supporting?
3 great questions. We do have a
I try to be efficient.
You're very efficient. You should be in the White House press secretary because that was a really good follow-up question. And then
this is way more fun. Did they drink wine while they
they're going to want to after these hearings, aren't they? Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Absolutely. No, the charity aspect, we have a core group of charities that have been with us since the beginning, and we try to get a charity for everyone. I mean, there are so many incredible causes out there that we're honored to help a bunch of them, but we actually don't select them. And when we selected them early on, now most of them are selecting us. So they will come to us and they will talk to us, and we try to make certain that we have, some sort of avenue for every single consumer's want. We aren't there yet, but we'll get there. So if you want to give to children in poverty and you want to make certain children in poverty have a chance at getting out of poverty and getting an education, then our partner, the Ounce of Prevention, absolutely for you. They do amazing things at the national level, at the local level, across the country. You're sick and tired of the way our soldiers and our veterans are treated when they come back from engagement. They don't have great health care. They don't have good jobs. Then Cellar Angels is a charity for you. You want to save animals? We've got 2 options. A Place to Bark, which is one person doing that. She's incredible.
Really?
And
just one?
One person saves like 500 animals a week, and it is entirely on donations. It's incredible. Water is incredibly important to wine, so if you want to protect the oceans, you have to see what an organization like Cethos is doing. So we want to make certain that we have enough representation that the charities can benefit, because there's some national charities. I mean, the V Foundation, this being college basketball, climax of the year with March Madness, Jimmy Valvano founded the V Foundation 20-plus, 30-plus years ago, and it's a cancer charity. So they're a charity partner of ours. I mean, they have 2 million members. On a smaller scale and at both size and size of charity, but Pediatric Cancer Research Foundation is a partner of ours, and they deal with children with cancer. Jenny McCarthy and her autism charity. Jenny's done an amazing job at putting autism on the map, which it wasn't even on the map 6 years ago. No one knew what autism was. Now she's a charity partner of ours. Lisa Gibbons and her Alzheimer's Foundation. So we try to have everything for everyone. But if you have a charity suggestion, lay it on us. We're all ears.
Now, how long do these, once you feature a winery, how long are the wines featured?
The wines are featured for 5 days because we think it gives the most exposure and greatest engagement to the consumer for the winery. We didn't want to be a flash site, and it's kind of funny because the media tells us that we're not a flash site, but they don't know how to categorize us because our events are 5 days. So they can't call us a 5-day flash site, and they really don't know where to put us. And since we do so much for the winery by giving them the video, by sharing with them the names and the emails of the people that buy the wine, and having the charitable component, by having chefs do the tasting notes, they're like, yeah, you guys aren't a flash site at all. We don't know how to categorize you. So 5 days builds the engagement for the winery, and the consumer gets to pick and choose how often they buy. There's no membership fee. There's no commitment. It's really easy. One of our emails that we get often is someone will write in and say, you guys are like a virtual wine tasting and trip to Napa Valley every week, and I love it. And that's praise for us. We like that.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I love it. I totally agree with you. So you're creating a community for the wineries as well. So you're providing them with content. You're providing them with access to a new clientele through the Angels, and you're providing them with an interactivity with their consumers through being able to follow up with them and hear from them.
Yeah.
And that's something that those flash sales sites do not do.
No, there's a disconnect there.
I don't know why they call it social commerce, because they call the Groupon social commerce. There's nothing social about it at all.
Well,
no,
I think also
that's a great point, Susan.
Yeah, and there's I think some of those things are very successful, but you're definitely missing the component of the story and the connection, which you need to have that emotional connection and feel that story and feel like you're connected with that winemaker if you're also going to adopt and connect with whatever charity that's benefiting. Yeah. So there's something very special about that you couldn't accomplish in a wine sale or a flash wine sale type of model.
Well, and Susan, you just mentioned social engagement, and we do a bunch of things that a lot of those other businesses can't do. For example, our last wine event that we had last week featured Cornerstone Cellars, and Craig Camp at Cornerstone and the wines they make right there in Yountville. Mm-hmm. He's got the social media stuff down to a pat. I mean, it's perfect. He knows exactly what he's doing. But as far as social engagement, anybody that bought a case of that wine, they got signed bottles by the winemaker, and they got a private Skype session with the winemaker. So now you get your wine delivered, and then 2 months later you can schedule a Skype session with the winemaker like this and be interacting and asking, well, why is this wine so good? What am I tasting here? No one is offering that experience. So it doesn't matter what state you're in. You get to talk with someone at the winery live, which is really what the social tools and social engagement is all about.
Well, have you heard of ToutSuite before? We do that.
You do that.
So, that's why we're here. But I like everything that you have to say on that point. Well, that's the future, is to be able to connect people with one another and give, what you're doing. I love the fact that your members have the title of angels, because not only are they contributing to great causes, which is huge, it's just super powerful, but also you're putting them on, I think, an equal playing field, so to speak, with the winemakers. Everybody's got a title. You're not just a faceless, nameless consumer. They're empowered. They're now empowered, and then they feel special.
Well, thank you, and we're humbled by that, and we hope it helps them learn about wine, because we love wine. And traditionally, the way to learn about it was by books or by classes, or by reading one of two periodicals which didn't speak to you, actually probably spoke down to you, and made you feel somewhat exclusionary and not part of the elite club. So we want to annihilate that. Wine is for everyone. And when you look at some of the things that some of our winery partners are doing, and Christine knows, one of our favorite wineries is Schweiger Family up on top of Spring Mountain, and talk about a family of passion and a family that is committed to what they're doing. I mean, during the last recession in the 80s, he was a contractor and decided this isn't going to work. There's no jobs, and turned the business into a winery. And now fast forward 30 years later, they're producing 90-plus point wines at very small quantities and have a to die for location, and those are the wineries like that we feel, like Cornerstone, like Blanchard Family that we're featuring this week. I mean, two brothers. One of them is active military out of Sonoma.
Oh, really?
And these guys source great fruit. Yeah, he is a helicopter pilot, and he lives in Colorado, and Mark Blanchard lives in Sonoma. But those are the types of things, they'll never be represented in a store or unless they get to 10,000 cases or something like that, and that's quite a few years away, but they make exceptional wine. That's actually what's in my glass tonight.
So I just want to give some feedback from Dan God, who had a comment, nothing better than small producers, in response to your answer to his previous question. And he has another question. Why are wineries missing the opportunity to reach more customers via social media?
Well,
and that's up to you, Martin, to solve that right
we're trying. Here. We try to solve that.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I think it's strictly related to resources. And I'm going to choose Napa Valley as an example. Okay, there's about 930 commercially licensed wineries in Napa. Over half of them don't have a physical facility. Okay, so there's 500 or more that use custom crush facilities. 90% of the 900 produce under 10,000 cases. 95% produce under 5,000 cases. When you are a winery that small, you do not have a tech department. You do not have a website design company. You do not have a social media company. It's you, 4 people, maybe a family member, and those sorts of things. So they don't have the tools. They're out in the vineyards. They're out making certain that the crop is coming in. I mean, that's a full-time job. And you guys know, everyone thinks wine country and the winery life is charcuterie trays in the evening, mani-pedis in the morning. It's all glitz and glamour.
Only half of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's only Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
It is a tough job. It's one of the hardest jobs there is, and there's so much of it that's beyond their control, i.e. Mother Nature. So I don't fault them for not having a terrific website. That's where we have to help them. Social engagement tools, as you know, are changing like that. So look at MySpace was the biggest wave 6 years ago, and now it's defunct for all intents and purposes. So they don't know what to get on. So, Dan, that's a great question. I don't have the answer. I just hope we can help them in some way by giving them a lot of the tools and giving them the content, because content is king. Doesn't matter how good your website is. If the 2007 is unavailable and people are trying to buy it, get it off the website.
Mm-hmm.
So content is important.
The social, we kind of came up with the idea for ToutSuite based on that same dilemma, which is we went to a wine social media conference or something, and the wineries were saying, so what do we do? This was maybe in 2008, 2009. And they were all interested in the Facebook, Twitter, social thing. They said, do we hire someone to do our Facebook posts and our tweets? And what do we tweet? We don't know what to tweet. And you're looking at some of the most interesting, dynamic people that are on this planet,
Yeah.
The small producers. They're just, they can go talk for 2 hours at dinner and you're just like mesmerized by their stories and the things just that they go through each day, because they're living the rock star lifestyle by traveling and drinking wine and with just everyone that's fabulous in the world, yet they're coming back, raising their families, getting involved in their communities in a very small town community, farming community.
Mm-hmm. They're farmers.
And they're out on the farm in the,
Correct.
Taking care of their, so I don't know of another industry that has that breadth of experiences on a day-to-day nature, So that, try to tell them, you should be tweeting. And I don't think we need another picture of bud break. I'm not saying tweet, it's bud break, that's your picture. We don't need to talk about malolactic fermentation with everyone.
And we have, it's funny you mentioned that, because we have that challenge too, because they'll say, well, can we put the winemaker on camera? And I'll tell them, listen, if the winemaker, if he or she is going to start talking about bricks and malolactic, they're done.
Yeah. It's like, woo, you see people just clicking off.
You're going to put people to sleep. So I agree with you. There's a very, very romantic, intimate story that needs to be told. And so I'm happy to tell it. And I think it's a magical beverage. And we're thrilled to be able to help the wineries and help the charities at the same time, help the consumers, because very few of these wines have shelf space. I mean, the winery that we're featuring this week with Blanchard Family, they made 50 cases of this dedication wine.
Wow.
Most wineries spill that much.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you look at some of the wineries we featured, and we've got a huge event coming up April 16th with Stein Family Wines, Freedom to Marry, all about marriage equality, and a really cool wine called Same Sex Marriage.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that, if you can, as much as you can without scooping yourself.
It is. It's a rock star of a wine made by a Napa producer. It is a Bordeaux blend, so it has all 5 of the Bordeaux varietals, and it has got a pretty cool little label with some animated caricatures on it. Produced in small quantities, but we're partnering with a group called Freedom to Marry, and obviously Stein Family Wines is going to be making it. But the wine is out in the marketplace right now in tiny, minuscule quantities, and it is going like crazy. And the nice thing about what Stein has done is they realize it just can't be a fancy label and it can't be a marketing gimmick. What's in the bottle has got to count. So he's a charity-minded, and that's a charity-minded winery to begin with for years, because a percentage of everything that he has sold previously went to the children of all of the vineyard workers that worked in Napa. So it's all about giving full circle. I mean, Stein is one. We mentioned Jay Dorn, one person. Christopher Dorn is not going to have his wines in 50 different retail outlets because he makes under 800 cases. But it's one guy. Amy Aiken at Meander Wines makes exquisite Cabernets and some fantastic white wines. One woman, and by the way, a very, very difficult female industry. So it's for her to.
Some of the best winemakers in the industry are women.
I agree. Yeah. So
we have another tweet, and I really love this tweet. I think everyone should tweet this now. All right, and you'll understand in a minute. This is so it says, in my glass, 2006 Dunas Montreux. What is it?
Ask the Frenchman.
Hey.
Oh, the French guys are back.
We have the Frenchman.
They're waiting to pounce. The Dunas Montreux from winemaker Greg LaFollette, a blend of Sangiovese Syrah and a splash of Gwurz.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. So I want to follow that statement up with a question. What's in your glass, Martin?
We talked a little bit about that. My glass is the wine this week. It's a Syrah blend with Cab, and I believe a little bit of Petit Verdot. But what's in my glass every night differs. It could be white, it could be red, it could be rosé, it could be beer. No problem there. But I'm fascinated by what the small producers like Loomis is doing. I'm fascinated by Jericho Canyon, by the way. If you don't know Jericho Canyon, you will know Jericho Canyon. We featured them about 18 months ago, and now Aaron Pott is the winemaker and is very excited about what's coming out of Jericho Canyon. So those small producers, maybe we discovered them and we helped them along the way. I would like to take credit for that, but I'm sure it's not the case. But those sorts of folks, and we've done some big wineries, so don't get me wrong. We've done Saint-Supéry, and I think Saint-Supéry is magical. As Susan, you pointed that out. You saw Christine in the Saint-Supéry video.
That's right.
And I think it's kind of what, she was the George Costanza hand model.
I did. I worked on that. I buffed them and I polished them and I worked on opening up that bottle.
She came directly from a mani-pedi.
Now that helps put you in the mood. I saw you drinking slow motion and going, So watch that Saint-Supéry video. There's a great little portion with Christine in it.
And I was so impressed with watching that video how you really put things together, because we did everything on pretty quick takes. And the production team you work with, Sims, right?
Yes.
Sims Production?
Yep.
They do a wonderful job. And I was so impressed from seeing everything from start to finish and seeing the finished product. Very amazing videos put together, just content packed, but also the quality is there. And you don't really see that in a lot of wine videos. And very high production quality.
It's more than a flip camera.
No, it's definitely more than a flip camera. And then, you know what I find is so fun, too, when I receive your emails, because I'm also one of the wine club members, and I'm an angel.
You're an angel?
Yes, I'm an angel. And when I get my emails, I love how you tie everything in with movies. I think it's so fun, and it makes it interesting. And where did that come from?
that came from a marketing brainstorm. How do we get more people to open up our emails? So we decided to go that route in October and test it for Q4, and it worked great. And so now the challenge is finding those famous movie quotes and movie scenes that resonate with people. And so you've got to span quite a few generations. Last week 2 weeks ago we pushed the envelope and got a little bit of some pushback because we took the scene from Silence of the Lambs about I had his liver with a nice Chianti.
Yeah.
Yeah. There were some people
I thought it was clever. I was laughing.
We got a little bit of disturbed males from that one, but the people thought it was gross. They thought it was disgusting. They thought it was over the top, and in essence it was. But keep in mind, it was I think one of the top 10 films of all time or something like that. And who cannot forget the visceral reaction you had to Sir Anthony Hopkins in that scene and Jodie Foster, and it does resonate. So thank you so much for complimenting the movie aspect because it does bring another element to it that's kind of fun.
It is, and and it works because those people, even though you received, some unsatisfactory feedback, they read the email.
Correct.
So it's like, don't look. Okay, I'm looking. I mean, there really is no bad type of PR because when people are talking, they're talking, and you're drawing attention to yourself. So job well done.
And it gives you an opportunity to respond to them and tell them what you're trying to do and bring them even closer in.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's something we're an old-fashioned company using new tools because we do respond to our audience. And Christine has been the recipient of handwritten thank you notes, and we thank the people that buy each week, and we reach out to the wineries, and we help them at events well beyond the Cellar Angels event. We were talking before the show at a charity event we did this past weekend in Los Angeles, and 5 of our winery partners from previous events donated product, and we represented them in capacity with some assistance. So they know what Cellar Angels is all about, and we're humbled. I can't even tell you how humbling it is that they recognize and believe in what we're doing and so eagerly want to be a part of it. Fantastic to us.
Well, thank you, Martin, so much for sharing your story.
I want to say we do have David Long in the house right over there. Hi, David. Oh. His show is directly following at 6 p.m. tonight. So I hope you can stay on, Martin. Everybody watching, please stay on and tweet your questions in the same way.
David has a little ho-hum shack up on Pritchard Hill that's producing some okay wine. He's got one of those fly-by-night winemakers. Now, actually,
yeah.
Niall
happens to be one of your good friends.
He's
people you hang out with.
No, I don't know if I hang out with Niall. We were humbled to feature Niall's Pinot Noir on the site, and Niall is just a class act. And David and I have not met. I met David's brother. I look forward to meeting David sometime, but I met his father, oddly enough. So
he'll be on in a few minutes. Yeah.
I look forward to meeting him then.
Yeah. Do you want to? Well, I did want to ask you one more question before we go.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
I was reading something about you today where
on the bathroom wall.
Yes, it was very nice of you to put that on the bathroom wall.
I'm a giver.
Over there. And you signing it and everything.
I know.
I hope it was you who wrote that. You were giving advice to people just starting out in the business, and you said to expose yourself to stories of people who have become great successes and have had huge, massive failures in their lives, like Hemingway, Edison, and Ford. And I wanted to know if you could share how that's impacted your business trajectory and how that got you into where you are.
That was really the kernel of how Cellar Angel started, because I was sitting in the wine store in 2010, and the economy was on meltdown. The Dow was plummeting. People were losing jobs. The iconic restaurants of Chicago were closing, and Chicago is a foodie city, big time. And the proverbial excrement was hitting the fan everywhere. And I'm a huge proponent and believer that in every cataclysmic disaster, you can focus on the negative, or you can focus on something of equal and greater opportunity that can come from that. It's entirely your choice. So you can focus on the doom and gloom, and you can focus on, I can't make the rent, I can't we're not going to be able to pay this lease. And you can focus on all that, or you can say, you know what, I'm 6 feet above ground. Here's what I'm going to make good about this. Here's how I'm going to impact others. Here's how I'm going to do this. And so I decided at that moment we are going to make something good for these small wineries and these charities. And I said, basically, who's with me? And I gathered a group of angels, if you will, and said, we can do this. Let's not let this economy sway us. Let's just help these wineries, help these charities, and let the consumers get access to great wines and see what can come of it, and let that be our legacy.
Awesome.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. And I've always felt that no matter how low someone might be feeling in their life, or how hard of time someone's having, you're always okay if you can help someone else. So if you can pay it forward at least once a day and make a difference in someone else's life, then you know you're doing good. And that kind of keeps you going.
100% agree. And the interesting thing is, no matter how bad you think you have it, and it may be bad, I promise you, someone has it worse.
Absolutely.
I just told this to my daughter. I read something today, and it said if everybody got together and threw their problems into a pile, you'd take your own back. You'd be like, no thanks.
You really don't want anyone else's garbage.
And it's a good way to look at it, too.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's all you are what you think. So I'm a big believer in that. And then, yes, I've learned a lot from all the books that I've read, and there's credenza behind me and more books of the great thinkers of the 20th century and the modern era and stuff like that. But one of the greatest axioms I've learned is success only comes before work in the dictionary. So you better be ready to work your tail off, and that's what we try to do.
Yeah, it feels good when you do that, too.
Yep.
So we're going to see you. You're going to have to stop by the studio. You're going to be in town in Napa next week, correct?
I will.
Okay, you're going to have to come by and say hello and have a glass of wine with us.
That is not a tough sell.
I know. Twist that arm.
Exactly.
Great,
Tell David hello, and I'll see you in the next hour.
All right.
Thank you so
see you
much.
in a little bit.
Yeah,
all right, thanks, you guys.
Everyone, visit cellarangels.com and sign up to be an angel.
Great.
Cheers.
See you soon.
Cheers.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Christy.
Thank you.
Good night.